Right, so we're going to make a fractal wood burner out of one of these things. It's a microwave oven transformer. You see this all over the internet actually, and there's a thing going about at the moment where people are managing to kill themselves with them, and there's been 33 people last year killed apparently. Now when I was researching this I had to look at what other people are doing, and yeah, okay. What you normally see is this thing on a block of wood sitting there bare on the bench while they're busy slopping water around with salt in it and prodding at it to burn pretty patterns in. And to be brutally honest, I'm not surprised they're electrocuting themselves. This thing sitting on the bench is not the best of ideas. In order to talk about that, what I've got is a toaster. This embodies just about everything you need to think about when building something like a fractal wood burner or any project you're going to do where you're going to plug it into the wall. These things are in every kitchen in the UK and are tremendously popular, and of course right in there they have some bare wires that get very hot, and if you stick your fingers in there when it's plugged in or drop it in your bath, there's a very good chance you will at least hurt yourself and quite likely kill yourself. You don't find anybody moaning much about these. You don't find people saying don't buy a toaster, it'll kill you, which is actually it will do, because it's got all of the safety needed to make that safe, barring some idiots of course. And the simple thing is, it's in a box where you can't touch it. Because you get electrocuted from something when you touch something that is live. If you can't touch it, you're not going to get electrocuted. Now, I know that's a stupid thing to say, but then most of safety is a stupid thing to say. If you've got a saw running, try not to stick your hands under it. If you're by the side of a motorway, try not to jump in front of the traffic. There isn't a lot of stuff to do with safety that you need to implement in order not to kill yourself. With electricity, it basically comes down to don't touch it. In order for you not to touch it, you have to put it in a box. If you put it in a box, you can't touch it. And so it's perfectly safe. So all of the safety surrounding making a fractal wood burner out of these things comes down to something super simple. Don't touch it. And we're going to build a few things to help make sure that you don't touch it. And the simplest thing is stick it in a box. The other thing is, don't stand near to it when you've turned it on, because if you don't stand near to it when you turned it on, it's not going to leap out at you. I mean, you're slopping salty water around on a bench, okay, and you've got a live bit of equipment out there bare. It's basically a trap waiting to go off. If you do a few very simple things that come down to don't touch it, then you're going to be able to do this perfectly safely in the same way that you make toast for your breakfast. Okay, first things first. Let's make ourselves a switch. Now, here I've got what's called a momentary push button switch. It's only on when I press it. If I let go, it turns off automatically, and I've got two of them. If I put two of them in a bit of plastic that far apart, it's far apart so I can't press them both with one hand. I have to use both hands to press it. They both have to be pressed to turn the thing on. And if I'm holding that and I press it to work my machine, I can't touch the machine because I'm holding that. If I let go of that, the machine turns off. I can touch the machine now because I've got one hand, but it's off. And you need to have it with both of them, so you need to touch it with both hands in order to turn it off. And that's one of the simplest safety things you can do. So we're going to make ourselves a safety switch using two push button switches in a bit of plastic. Okay, so it comes from the plug into that side of the switch, from that side of the switch to that side of the switch, and from that switch there back out to your appliance. Now all I've got to do is make sure I get some heat shrink on there, clamp that down and put it back on it. Okay, and that's it finished. Now then, anything I plug in and connect to this end of the cable is only going to come on if I'm pressing both of those switches at the same time. If I let one or the other go, it'll turn off. I have to have both of them held. The minute I let them go, it turns off, and I can't reach one to the other. I need to use both hands to do it, and that is a really basic safety switch that is going to make sure that you don't get your hands anywhere near it while it's turned on. Okay, so we need to put this in something. Now, unfortunately, when these run, these get hot. So if you've got a fully enclosed space, you need to add a fan so that you can blow cool air over it. But you can't sit it on a bit of plastic because it's a bit too hot for that. So what everybody uses is wood. Use a plank of wood and you pop that there. When you're running this, what you're doing is just splashing a load of salty water around, and of course that salty water will create a bridge. It's actually how the fractal wood burning works. So rather than just having a bit of wood sitting on your bench, what you want to do is give it a little gap. Give it a gap of something that is insulating so the water can't slop over here and slop over everywhere else and you make contact. Just by lifting it up, you're going to be able to prevent that contact happening. What I use are these things. They're resin-based drawer handles, so they're insulating, able to cope with any heat, and just lift the wood off the bench so we don't slop that water absolutely everywhere. Dead simple, just drill 4 holes and screw them onto the edge to act as feet. So I've added the feet and I've added this thing. This is called a Batten Fitting. It just holds a lamp bulb. The cable goes underneath and is clamped onto the base so you can't tug the cable. And we've obviously got a light. So when we turn this on, the light comes on and we can see that the light comes on. So our transformer goes right there. And I've also got this. This is a little basket meant for, I don't know, things. I suspect bathroom things. Goes on there like that. It's plastic covered wire, so if it was bare wire you'd need to earth it. If it's plastic, it needs to be bigger so it's away from the heat source so you get lots of nice air in there. This could do with being a little bit bigger so that even if you poke your finger in there, you couldn't touch that. Now, it's to prevent against accidental knocking. I can rest on it, I can knock something with it, nothing's going to happen. So that won't allow me to get close to this because it's just a barrier that does it. Now with our switch here, we plug this in. If I press 1, nothing. There we go. The light turns on because it's on. If I let go of one, it's off. So I need to be holding both of them for it to actually give power to that. Once I release both of those, there's no power to it. Now, I think one thing should strike you, and that is how simple these safety precautions are. Remember, the whole point about electricity is not to let it touch you or touch anything that can conduct to you. And so we've lifted it off the bench so it's not slopping around in things. We put a cage around it so we can't knock it. If the cage was metal, we'd need to earth it. If it was plastic, we wouldn't. We've got a light to tell us it's on. We've got a safety switch where we need both hands to operate it so that we can't actually get near it. And so that is about as safe as you're gonna get. It's tremendously safe. And all of this stuff was got from my local supermarket or local hardware store. So one more bit we need, because obviously we can now get this humming, but we can't get anything out of it, and to get something out of it, then we're going to be pulling that high voltage out of that cage. These I bought on Amazon. They were about £1 each. They're high voltage connectors. They're just a plug that goes into a socket meant for high voltage. These are 40 kilovolts. This produces about 2 kilovolts, so it's well over the rating. And they fix onto your cage right there with all this chunky plastic separating you from the high voltage, and right down at the very bottom where you have no hope of reaching and no hope of arcing is the actual contact. This bit is the bit you shove in there, and that's where your wire comes out. So that bit goes in there. Now your high voltage is coming out, but you still have no hope of actually touching it. So let's fix those bits down together. There is one little point about this. This case here is where the return for the secondary comes. It's there. So this whole block is actually your secondary return. That bit is your high voltage out. Those bits are your power. So we need to connect those to the lamp, and this to this, and this to the other one of those, this. So there it is, finished. I mean, it really is a simple machine. You're basically plugging a transformer in and taking the high voltage. But to make it safe, we've followed a very simple principle. Don't touch it. Now, to follow that principle, of course, we put a cage around it. We've done a deadman switch so we can only operate it and not touch it at the same time. There's a light on it to tell us that it's working. But I have bothered to do other things, okay? These here I bought from Amazon, remember, £1 or 2 each. They're 40 kilovolt terminals. They're the right thing for the right job, because you very often find people just going straight onto the spade terminal there. Now that's actually not a good idea because that spade terminal isn't meant to take tugging. No cable is meant to take tugging. So this cable here is fastened to the board with clamps. So if I tug the cable, I'm not tugging the cable, I'm tugging the board against the clamps, so I can't break a junction and get a short circuit. So the other thing about it being in a box like this, none of those terminations are stressed. They're all properly made with spade connections, but they're not under stress, and that's why that's important. If you've got your wires straight on here and you give them a tug, you may well break them. Here, with the proper termination, you're going to pull out this, because remember that goes in there to be able for you to attach your leads to do your work. If you pull it, it'll pull straight out and it won't do any harm whatsoever, but it won't break that junction because there's no stress on the junction. So it's tightly made, it's strongly made, you're isolated from it. You can only operate it when your hands aren't near it. And if we plug that in, nothing happens. If I press that, nothing happens. I've got to press them both at the same time. We'll see the light come on and the transformer hum. There you go, busy producing high voltage right here. So I'm going to do a separate one on the leads themselves because they need a bit more information, but that is the actual basic machine where you've followed those simple instructions to stop you from touching it and made it safe. I mean, it's not a safe machine, okay, because it's high voltage. If you're really determined to hurt yourself, you will do, but it is going to help you not have accidents with it. Now this here, the cable that comes out of there, people very often use household cable. What you want is this stuff. This is high voltage cable. This particular cable is rated to 40 kilovolts and we make the leads out of that stuff, not out of household cable. But the main point is these. When you put these in, you're adding to the safety. Nothing in there can be got at by you. This bit, when you plug it in to start your work, of course, that's the dangerous bit. We need to follow a few more basic principles. But to build that machine, that's all you have to do. Now, if you've already built one, and I've seen a lot where they're just the transformer sitting on the bench, just buy a basket and stick it over it. That's going to be so much help to you. Put a dead man switch in. That is going to be a huge amount of help to you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video so far. I hope it makes sense. If there's any questions, do feel free to ask. Thank you very much for watching, and please remember to like and subscribe.